Good evening, everyone. Good evening to all of you who braved the cold. I don't know, my car said it was only 40 degrees. It was 40, it felt like 20 to me, especially when I came and the door was locked. And I'm standing out there. But you braved the cold and you didn't. Hi, Zoomers. How are you? Not to give you too much guilt, but unless you live out of state or very far away, we would love to see you here with everyone else. It would be really nice. Anyway, Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year. How many of you made New Year's resolutions? Just think about it on Zoom and let me see hands. Did you make you didn't, you gave up? You don't. How come? That's wonderful. So could you repeat that for our Zoom audience so they can hear what you just said? That's very uplifting.
Myself, thinking about myself and not ever making resolutions. I like this topic tonight being um, trying something new, 2024, rather than resolution. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do.
Terrific. And I know Zoomers, you can't share with us yet. We say that for the end of the session. But is there anyone here who would just admit you made a resolution? Not that you are not admitting. Anyone here? I did. I was going to the gym every day. And what's today, the 4th? Haven't done it yet. What stops us from changing? What do you think? I'm asking. I mean, I know that we want to do better. That's why we have the expression New Year's resolution, and that's why we make jokes about not fulfilling them or dropping them after a few days. And as I've gotten older, I don't make them either because I know I can't keep them. What is that pull? Anybody have any idea? What pulls you to stay the same? Sand scars. I think that's true. Sand scars, which are your needs. You know, I've built this whole ego out of keeping myself feeling comfortable, and I have a comfort zone. You know, raise your hand if you have a comfort zone. My comfort zone includes quite often eating sugar. It's not the most horrible thing in the world to eat sugar. However, I know that there must have been some satisfaction I can remember in this lifetime of just having that soothing feeling of something sweet or something to soothe. And it's food for a lot of people, you know, or working out in the gym works for some. Healthy compulsions work. But we have compulsive behavior. We have all these things. And so we ask ourselves, let's do something new. And what quite often stops us is we don't have the courage to do it because we don't feel safe. So tonight, the blurb says, a new start. Are you ready? You're ready. I know. What comes to mind when you think of starting new? A new start means really new, not just giving a facelift or makeover to hide the old. Are you ready to welcome newness despite its risks and lifestyle changes? Now, sometimes we're forced to change. And I'm I was very struck by 9/11, where people dropped everything and helped each other. That was a change that felt very good in the heart, in the soul, to help other people more. There's my New Year's resolution. And I started doing it when I finished the course here. I was very touched when during COVID, artists were out of work. And what did they do? They hopped right on this new thing called Zoom, which wasn't so new maybe, but it was the vehicle that kept us all united, not just as a planet, not just, you know, being able to reach across the entire world, but it kept us united in spirit. And what you had were, I was so touched, actors, singers, musicians for no money, pushing their talent by going online, going on Zoom, entertaining us in our homes. And everyone came into my home. My home had hundreds of people a week because we did not want to be victims of COVID, right? I'm not even talking about the disease. So we have a spirit that needs fulfilling. There's a very famous quote, though, getting back to what we were talking about before I introduced Tony, and they're crediting Tony Robbins with it. I think it's older than that, but we will remain the same until the pain of remaining the same outweighs the pain of change. Did I say that right? So we don't change easily for the reasons I think you said. You know, that's one of the reasons. And so tonight we're going to have Tony. You know, Tony, we've seen Tony before. Tony is a brilliant, wonderful brother here at Harmony House and other places. And actually, Tony is an architect and a planner in New York City. He's worked as a government official and a corporate manager. He currently manages his own private practice. And of course, he's been a student of Raja Yoga meditation for over 20 years. And he facilitates BK retreats for his professional community also, and participates in programs to further the understanding always of spirituality, particularly in the context of his professional life. So I'm going to introduce Brother Tony to you now, and we'll see what he has to say. And I'm looking forward to having a little dialogue with you for this hour. Thanks for coming to us tonight, Tony. I'm sure it was. Yeah. I used to shiver and shake at Queensboro Plaza when I was a kid, all the way up in the air on the elevated train. Yeah. Okay, the evening is yours. The evening is ours.
The night is colder than it seems, I think. Certainly it seemed a lot colder in the station while I was waiting the 10 minutes of a delay for the train. The blurb for this event was full of a lot of words, but in all cases, it was talking about new. And I thought maybe we should need to kind of look at what this really means, because it's a word we throw around rather indiscriminately, but it actually is a very special word. So my first thought was, let's undo some of the things that we associate with newness. And the first thing came to my mind was renewing. And we need to separate that from newness. It's a different thing. Like Louise said, when we do a New Year's resolution, we're going to do something better, something different, something change. And actually renewing is part of our existence. It's not a bad thing. You know, our body renews itself between 3 and 7 years. Every part of our body is changed. Every cell in the body is changed. Our environment renews periodically. If it didn't, we'd be in kind of deep trouble, as there are now places in the world where that's not happening and people are suffering. So renewing is very important. Actually, standing still literally means renewal, because the world is constantly moving. So for us to stand still, we're actually renewing. Otherwise, we'd be falling behind. And this is not a bad thing. It's actually very healthy. It's essential for our bodies and for our environment. So renewal and renewing is something very important, but it's not newness. It's not what we are looking at right now. And I want to just to lay that groundwork. So what are we really talking about when we say new? So we're not talking about change, and we're not talking about being different. These are different qualities, and we can have actually entire sessions on those, but that's not what we're talking about. Okay. It doesn't really have any synonyms. I looked through the dictionary. New is a really unique word. You go to the dictionary and you have like 20 synonyms for some of the more common words. And you go into new, and they tell you its origin in 5 languages, but the synonyms, but they're all the same, actually sound the same in 5 different languages. And the synonyms like fresh, novel, all these things are not really there. New is a very unique word. Even its etymology is very special. So what exactly does it do for us? Where is it that newness begins? So the example I use almost in every single insight session I've been in, I have few ideas, but I like to redo them all the time. And that's when we talk about love. Love is one quality that for us is always new. The love of a child, the love of another person. Love is always new. It's never the same. When it becomes to be the same, then it becomes something else. It becomes a relationship, becomes a pattern, can be many things. Not necessarily bad, but it's not love. Love is new every moment that we experience it, that we think about it even. So that's just put it in a context. That is what newness begins to define new. Something that it's not a question of being different. It's a question of being new, being fresh. So that is really the critical thing about newness, about new. I'm going to get to newness in a second. And I just have an anecdote. I am personally addicted to the internet in terms of these things about babies and toddlers. And somehow Facebook figured out that I like this. And every time I open Facebook, there's a couple of them, not just one, maybe there's like 15 of them. So they really got my number. And they're endlessly delightful. These children doing things, everything that they do is new, is fresh, and you are enjoying it with them. You're saying, wow, that is so cool. These children have no past. They don't even know what that is. They don't understand that. It's not a conscience that they have. Everything is new. And you can watch the same thing over and over again, and you'll never get tired of it. That's new. That's something that really, really touches you. And that was kind of the anecdote that I wanted to kind of show how we can begin to define this extremely difficult word. So that is new. It's not change, it's not different, it's new. It's all by itself.
So if I'm getting you right, it's exciting and it's fulfilling because it's touching something within us.
It's new, yes, but it's not just touching us, it's how we also touch other people and other things. So it's both goes both ways. It's not just an experience. I mean, when you laugh at something very funny, it's because someone has said something in a very particularly unique way. And you say, wow, I mean, you didn't think of it. A really skilled comedian is catching you at a really appropriate moment, even things that you knew before. Somehow they say it and it's funny because they know how to make them new. I think the only synonym for new that I could find that had some relevance was unique. Uniqueness and newness have some relevance to it.
And it lights us up. It's exciting.
It does a great deal. For example, I mean, coming here, I come from work, I'm overwhelmed with things at work, and we're preparing for this event. And then I literally feel kind of freshness and newness as I get closer and closer to Great Neck, and as I come to the center. And you do feel the difference. That was in my office and then I'm here. And it's because, and I've been in the center many, many times, but it still feels new because it's in the present. So then we go from new, which is how we define a particular experience, to newness. Like I said, there were so many words in this blurb that I had to kind of go to the dictionary and figure out what all these things were. So newness. So what is it that makes up newness? And I think, and discussing this with Louise, she kind of gave me a clue and she said, well, maybe talking about creation. And that really was kind of a very important kind of to put things in some sort of perspective. Newness is something that's created. It's not, doesn't come already prepared. It's an act at a moment where we look at something fresh, we do something that spontaneous and engaging. And it does not ever relate to the past. When you are looking at newness, you're never thinking about the past. When you're able, by looking at one of these videos of the children or any other engagement that you have, or when you're in love with someone or in love with your own family and children, when you see them in that context, it's never the past. It's always the present. So newness is something that has to do with living the present, not the future, not the past, but the present. It's one of these moments that we actually feel, okay, we are now in the present, which is not something that is so easy to do. Most of the time, we're somewhere between the past and the future, and we end up forgetting where the present is. Newness forces us to be in the moment, in the present, because without it, we can't experience anything. We're just talking about something that we might do or something that we did do, but it's not what we do. One of the things I find when I go places nowadays, I've stopped taking photographs, which is a great consternation to my family because they want to know what I've been doing and where I have been. But I find it increasingly, and I guess as you're getting older, you can take liberties, you know, I don't have to do this anymore. I'm old enough to do whatever I want. I don't have to worry about this. Taking pictures is an interruption. If something is really interesting, I'm just enjoying it. I'm not going to take a picture of it. I'm going to experience it. And I think that that's really a quality of newness. So when I see something, when you see a beautiful landscape, a mountain, a gorge, a canyon that you have never seen before, and you kind of you're arrested and you're saying, wow, this is incredible. I never thought this kind of space existed. You don't even think of it, you just feel it. That's newness. That's newness. This is special, this is new, and this is now. So the newness is really a very important kind of concept because it's not just not being old or not the future. And newness is also a kind of an act that we make. So we're trying to look at newness not just as a kind of static concept, but it's something very dynamic and active. And like Louise mentioned, it's creation. It's a creation of our sensibilities. It's creation at its most fundamental, at its most protean, seminal existence. So it's creation.
Does it take courage?
Hmm?
You think it takes courage sometimes?
No. See, newness does not take courage. Change takes courage. Doing something different may take courage. But newness we create. We create it. It doesn't come from conflict. It's not a challenge. It's not a new enterprise. It's none of those things. I like to use this example also. When I first started doing Raj Yoga meditation, I was constantly in tension. Tension was the way I lived. I thought that was normal. I thought it was actually good. Actually, I felt that I was accomplishing things, that I was doing things, that I was moving things forward. And that was attainment. What I didn't realize is the corrosive nature of this tension and what it does to you undoes all the things that you're creating for yourself. In my case, fortunately, it didn't do any damage to me physically. And emotionally, I came here and was able to kind of start untying those knots of tension. But it doesn't help. Doesn't help. This tension that I thought was so important. So that's an example of how the process of newness can really change. Coming here, this was completely new. And I've been doing a lot of, before I came here, I was doing a lot of spiritual investigations into various types of disciplines. And with all of that, and I certainly was aware of the Hindu disciplines, this was new and continues to be new, which is why it's so special, because it's new for us every day. So,
But doesn't it imply change very often? Because when we change, we step out of our comforts. For example, I was talking to you about the professionals who were in corporate America who decided to leave their jobs where they were making maybe double or quadruple what teachers were making. I taught in high school, and they came leaving those jobs, leaving the lucrative job because there was something missing, and they wanted the excitement of taking that master's degree and teaching children and being in a classroom and closing that door and having the energy and the excitement of working with young people. And these were 17, 18-year-olds, the students. It was high school. And they were so excited to give up what everyone thinks they want, which is a high-paying job, and come in to the profession that they had rejected because teachers don't make money. And I saw this happening a lot in my 27 years at this high school, where people came in feeling quite sad about what they were doing Monday to Friday. And they were elated to change, and that they created their own newness.
the newness wasn't the change. Newness wasn't the change. The newness was what they were creating, what they were going for. The change was where they were. Okay, so in the newness, it's not like I have a new job that's going to require new requirements. I have to change the way I look at things. I have to change the way I manage.
Exactly.
They weren't looking at that. They were looking at something new. The newness is what they wanted. Change is what they had to go through to get there. But most of the time changes, I want to go from here to there. And it's not clear that exchange is really doing anything for you. And also change is also motivated by conflict. Change is motivated by tension, is motivated by need. This is motivated by creation, by your own creation, something that comes from inside of you. Those teachers you're talking about knew there was something special that they were missing,
They were missing.
and they were looking for that. They didn't just come there and say, oh, one day I'm going to just give up my corporate salary and make, $20 a week or whatever they pay the teachers nowadays, and say, okay, it was not a thought of that process. They were looking for something new, something that was going to refresh them.
The method,
Yeah.
the method. Yeah.
And so their change, it wasn't a change the way we normally, it was change, just like
We get it.
we have experienced change every day. We get older, that kind of change is inevitable. And that's the kind of change they were going through. They were not thinking, I'm going to change from this to that. They were thinking, I want something that I don't have.
That I don't have.
So, and I think change has connotations that I don't think really are as appropriate to this concept that we're talking about. There is very curious inversion of values regarding newness in the philosophy of our modern philosophy, in which there were entire movements that were basically saying everything we have is wrong and it should be changed and it should be new. The existentialists, for example, they were saying all this, everything here is not working, it's terrible. Some of it was true. And their analysis of it was very depressing. I know, because I remember I went through this when I was in college, and I really kind of taken aback by this. But what they were looking for was, where is it that we can go? What is it that's new? Of course, like all philosophic movements, they're not very good at telling you what to do. You want to define what the problem is. Problems were very, very large then, as they are now. And there's even a group called the deconstructivists that basically they're saying is we have to break down everything that exists, all the thoughts, all the structures, all the social structures. And I remember reading these people, and then at the end they're saying, because we're going to create something new. And that's the end of their philosophy. They don't say what you're going to create. They don't talk about what's new. You say everything here doesn't work. And the deconstructivism was just logical. Logically, it's illogical, which is true about most human things. But they don't tell you what is the new thing. Okay. So it's a subject that's been around our existence for a long time. And like I said, they just were not very good at telling you what to do about it. They're just trying to very vividly and sometimes harrowingly describe what was wrong. And that was not such a pleasant experience. So ultimately, we get to what exactly is newness. And in the final kind of looking at this subject, which is kind of very, very broad and deep, it's an action, it's a creation. And it's something that we do that makes us feel love, that makes us feel happy, that makes us content, that delights us. It's something that, by definition, at least by definition I'm coming to, is always positive. is always rewarding. Um, it's a quality that we create. And this quality is based on what I feel is very unique sensibility for human beings. This is the place where kindness dwells, where sweetness, where gentleness, where love, where tenderness resides. This quality of newness, this sensibility of newness. This is where these aspects of our personalities, of our personas exist. And the conclusion that I've come to is that newness is what human beings contribute to the world, because only human beings can contribute sweetness, can contribute tenderness, can contribute gentleness, can contribute lovingness. Only we do that. Doesn't happen with the animals, doesn't happen with the trees and nature, although they are all very beautiful too. And their contributions to the world is very important, but we do something very special. And only human beings can do that. We bring these qualities. We bring sweetness into the world. We bring tenderness. We bring gentleness. We bring loving. These are the things we bring to this world. This is how we make this world a world in which we have some kind of compensation for all the effort that we need to make, the struggle that we need to do to kind of survive in some of the environments that we're in. It is this quality, this sensibility, that for me is the fundamental essence of newness. It is a contribution that we make to this world. And again, as human beings, we make this contribution. I hadn't used the word peace for a very specific reason, because this is what happens here. This is what we do, what we can do every day, and what happens occasionally, and we greatly appreciate it. The reason we come here, the reason we look for answers to the struggles and challenges is because ultimately that sweetness, that gentleness, that tenderness is the only real creation we make as human beings. When you have a child, all of it is about tenderness, about gentleness, about sweetness. All you can think about is that. That's one of the major acts of creation. But it's not just the child that does that. We do that, and the child brings it out from us, which is why the human race has been so effective in proliferating, because we have a way of making this be very fruitful for us. So this is what we do. This is the creation we make. It's more important than Einstein's theory of relativity. It's more important than Newtonian physics. It's more important than Shakespearean sonnets and plays. This is a much more fundamental creation that is given to us as human beings. And this is where we make the best and most important contribution to this world, is in bringing these qualities. And these qualities are always new. They're never old. They're never past. They're always of the present. So newness, the sensibility of newness, is an act that we make. And very important, only we can make. No other creature in this universe can do this. Only us here in this world do this. Doesn't happen anywhere else, because these are things that we experience in the flesh. These are things that we have a direct relationship with, that we all know at some level. Even if it's only a memory, we remember this. That is what newness is. And when we're talking about coming into a new year, this is the tools, these are the tools, these are the resources we have. It's not all these other things, because all those things come and go. This is what we can bring, and we could keep bringing, and we could keep contributing to others and to ourselves. So that to me was the fundamental point of the new year. This definition of what is it that we do to create this world. And that, I think, is the most important quality that we have as human beings, is this newness, because it doesn't happen any other way.
Narayan, will people on Zoom be able to raise their virtual hands and speak? Narayan? He's not here.
Narayan, can they, huh? They can unmute anybody who wants to
Okay,
unmute, and, or anybody in the audience that wants to.
yeah, anyone who wants to comment or say anything. I just want to say while we're waiting, I think that the newness is a feeling. We're on the same page, because then putting it into action is the change. For example, if I make a conscious decision to be kind, to be sweet, I can't just make it in my head while I'm meditating. I've got to take it out into the world. So I think we're saying the same thing. So, right? Okay, this was wonderful. And I think that it always, all the good stuff always comes down to a spiritual solution, right? A choice to not be angry and resentful and hold grudges, and a choice to treat each other well. By choice, sometimes we have to. 9/11, COVID, we feel it's in the front. And sometimes we just we do it day to day.
Well, I think I don't want to put it in the context of a choice, because if we are going to go towards this sensibility, it's not a choice. That's what we do. We're being kind, we're being gentle, we're being tender. It's something that we do. It's a gift. It's like when you love all the time. It's not a choice you make. Most people say, I didn't choose to fall in love. I didn't choose to love. I mean, it's just happened. So it's very rarely a choice. And this is basically just a something that comes out from inside of you. Now you can use this to make other changes, but this is not the change. This is something that's fundamental, that's inherent in us. It's not the change. The change is what comes when we start manifesting these qualities. Then we can do about changing other things. But you don't change to this. We are this. This is what we start with this. We just have forgotten.
Right. So if we go back to the skit we did a few weeks ago, how would you relate Ebenezer Scrooge in the Christmas Carol to what you just said? He changes big time because there's a newness in him, or he's rediscovered something in himself. Does that relate to what we're talking about?
Well, he discovered tenderness in Bob Cratchit's condition. He discovered sweetness. He saw those qualities, and they changed him. He didn't change.
Ah,
Okay. Those qualities changed him. It wasn't he who was changing. That's why I'm saying this is the protein basis of our existence, because only we do this. Nothing else in this world does this besides us.
right. Comment, question? Anybody? No? Anybody on Zoom? Just shout out if you want to.
Is there anybody on Zoom?
Yes, we have 20 people. on Zoom.
Oh, okay, that's decent turnout.
Yeah, and I invited them to speak. Okay. Okay, so I'm thinking of the blurb that we started with. We choose to we welcome newness despite its risks and lifestyle changes, which is why, I think it's kind of, I understand what you're saying about the sensibility, but I think that we have to put it into action, and that's transformative. I mean, that's what we learn here, Tony, right?
But one of the things about this particular subject that, as I got into it, really became clear is that we have to go in and draw from that part of ourselves to make the change. In other words, we can't change into this position of being loving and tender and sweet. We have to start with that and go back to change the other things, just like the example of Cratchit and Scrooge. It was Cratchit's tenderness and sweetness that changed him. And it's what changes us. Our tenderness and sweetness changes us. We don't change to that. We don't change to sweetness and tenderness.
No, it's our natural state.
We have to have that as a basic quality in order for us to do any kind of change. I mean, do any kind of really fundamental transformation.
Because it's innately in us. You mentioned sanskars before. And this is the premise here is that we are naturally loving and kind. And then we go through lifetimes of wearing down, and we are witnessing now a deterioration in a lot of the higher virtues become vices, and we forget to be kind. We forget to be, but of course, Tony is talking about something innately human only. I love when you said that.
It's only human.
Only humans
Only
that
human.
can do it.
It's not nature.
Really
It's not the animal kingdom. It's
Mm.
only us.
Only us.
There was there's been several studies of psychologists talking to people in the prisons in the solitary confinement and on death row. And all of the people that were interviewed, almost without exception, except people that are completely psychotic, basically did not consider themselves evil people. That ultimately their values were good values. They were good people. They were sweet. They were tender. But the circumstances of their lives took that opportunity away from them. So, as a fundamental quality, everybody, even people who have done horrendous things, feel that they are basically innately good people and that they have been forced to do very bad things. Now, you can argue a lot of that in terms of psychological qualities, but all of us believe this. It's one of the things that is integral to us. We believe that all of us believe we are better than we are. Even the people on death row, they all believe they are better than they are. That their qualities are better than what is manifest on the surface. And newness is, how do you take these qualities that we have and make them into something that is manifest in our life, as opposed to just our feelings and our emotions, but not in our actions and not in the way we deal with people.
So what stops people from acting on that goodness and that beautiful? What stops us? What stops those people on death row? They've abandoned it. It's an innate part of them.
Well, there is a very extraordinarily moving book called The Real America about this immigrant who is almost killed by an irate customer and survives. And the irate customer is a man with very major anger problems, and he had a very terrible upbringing, but he really very difficult and obviously dangerous person who ended up in jail. And this guy he almost killed was really trying to figure out what was going on in this guy's mind, because he didn't do anything to him. He was a cashier, and the guy had some sort of anger about something else and took it out on him. So this man went and ultimately survived, became successful. I mean, went into some sort of IT business, became actually very successful, and made it one of his goals to find out why this man who almost killed him, what did he do that? And he went to see the man. The man was on death row at some point, finally. And he went to see the man and talk to him to understand what was motivating him to do this heinous thing that he did to him and to obviously to other people. And in the process of doing that, the guy who almost tried to kill him began to open up and said, "This is the first time anybody has ever had any interest in me whatsoever. And it's especially extraordinary that it comes from you, who I tried to hurt." So the reason why is because they've never been shown kindness or gentleness or sweetness in their life. It's been absent from their existence. And not having any way of manifesting that, they become these terrible, dangerous people. But this particular story was very moving, because this guy then ended up paying for these guys' appeals against the death penalty, and he met his children, met this guy's family and what have you, and the transformation, obviously, that was going on in the guy who was the criminal was extraordinary. But also the guy who he almost had killed and had survived, his transformation about understanding why this man was the way he was and why he was the way he was. It's a very extraordinary story, because you see both sides of this coin, one with innate qualities and one whose qualities have been completely repressed. And what happens in a dynamic, which is the worst case scenario, is what you're talking about. But even in that worst case scenario, there was sweetness, there was tenderness,
Yeah.
there was gentleness.
Yeah. And even if he couldn't escape the death penalty, he died a different man.
Yeah,
Aware
because he
of
died
himself.
understanding what was going on.
Now we're hitting the nerve. You know, I remember reading a story about a mother whose son was killed, and she goes to the jail 20 years later. He's in prison for life. And she goes to the jail, and she has a one-on-one without society, without the judgment, and it was the same situation, because they hugged, they cried in each other's arms, and he was able to have the kind of contact he had never had in his life with anybody, with the mother of the person he had killed.
But that's an indication that it's in all of us.
All of us.
It's a fundamental human quality. It's what we bring to the world, not what we think we bring to the world. I think we bring, you know, in my case, bring buildings and projects, you know, that's not what you bring to the world. This is what you bring to the world. This is what makes the world work, makes it function, makes civilization exist.
Yes, and if it's not of primo importance, then what we wind up with is a world that's ugly. I'm thinking also very quickly, and then we'll ask you to do a little closing meditation. I read Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist's biography, a little skinny 99-page book. And he was a victim of the Holocaust, and he was a very young child. But there was an SS soldier, and he's behind the barbed wire. Viktor Frankl is a little boy, and the soldier risks his own life by slipping him a crust of bread. And I think that touching moment is what we're talking about this evening, you know. It's there, but not everybody can be in touch with. Well, Tony, this has been really a beautiful, beautiful discussion. Thank you. Can you feel like meditating or
Sure.
having a little commentary? Before you do, though, I just want to make some important announcements. So don't sign off yet if anyone is thinking of doing that. Find the page with my notes. Okay, a lot of stuff coming up for January. Here we go. Next week, we have Sister Anjani, who is going to be talking about creating spiritual newness in the new year. And I want to tell you that every day in January, on Saturdays, every Saturday, we have an introduction to meditation in Levittown. I'll be there Saturday morning. Sister Anjani will be there. And we've done it a few weeks in a row, and we decided to take it into a kind of beginner's course in Levittown. And if you don't want to go to Levittown, we are beginning an introductory course in meditation right here in Harmony House in January, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's whatever weeks that is, 3 or 4 weeks until the end of January. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that is, oh, I did write, I'll find the time for you before you leave. I think it's in the evenings. Do you know, Tony? I forgot to write it down. And then January 13th, we'll take you as far as that. We have a lovely discussion here on positive thinking, 11 to 12:30, okay? All right, so it's going to be an exciting month. Hope you can join us for as much as you can. Okay, Tony, thank you.
We stop the movement of time. We pause it. And create a space in that continuum. And we drop down into that opening. With time stopped, there is no past. There is no future. It's just us, just the individual going deep into your consciousness. Going deep as if you were going under the surface of water. Seeing it further and further away. looking to find the center of your consciousness, the point where everything begins and ends. That point that can only be perceived when you stop time. When you experience a moment and you hold it as you search this core for all qualities that make you complete. It is in this search that you find all of the tools that you need to make your life your own. Make it something unique for yourself, not the product of your relationships, not even the product of your wants and yearnings and expectations. Because those are not yours. They don't belong to you. Go here, find a place where you are whole and you are still. And unmoved by the movement of the water high above you. Cannot touch you here. Here, you are complete. Here, you embrace yourself. And you hold on to this feeling of wholeness. And as you begin to rise back up to the surface, you wrap yourself in this feeling. And as you slowly ascend, and see the surface, you know you're bringing it with you. So at the very least, when you break the surface of the water, into the open air, it is still with you. For you to hold on as long as you can. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, and thank you once again, Brother Eric. Thank you all for coming this evening. Thank you, Zoomers, and hopefully we'll see you all next week. Enjoy the end of the first week of the new year. And we have blessings and tolis for everyone on your way out. Om Shanti.